Hey everyone, Lara here from testprepinsight.com, and today we're diving into a head-to-head comparison of the language apps from Rocket Languages and Babbel. Today we're going to take a look at the most current language programs, features, and pricing. In the end, I'll share with you which language program I think is the best, or at least what type of learner each app would be best for. Also, before we get too far into this review, I do want to mention that I'm focusing mostly on high-level points in this video to give you a comprehensive snapshot of what each offers. So if at any point you'd like more details, you can always check out our full detailed comparison on our website. I'll keep a link to it down below, and you can also find it just by using Google. Just type in Test Prep Insight Rocket versus Babbel. All right, so most of this comparison will be looking at the pros and cons of each app and comparing them side by side in that way. But before we get started on that, I want to just provide a quick overview of how each app and how the programs actually work. And let's start with Rocket Languages here. At the heart of Rocket Languages are the audio lessons, which are delivered in a podcast style. The audio lessons are interactive and can be thought of as interactive textbooks. The lessons are explained, and then you listen to native speakers converse in the language. This is followed by practice, where you listen to a sentence or two, sometimes even a phrase. From here, with the moderator's guidance, you engage in the conversation by answering questions and repeating phrases. Then, after the audio lesson, you review and reinforce what you just learned through a variety of drills and exercises. Part of the magic that makes Rocket Languages work so well is the quality of details, like the reinforcement drills that include listen and repeat type exercises, flashcards, quizzes, and my personal favorite, the chance to reenact the underlying conversation from the audio lesson by playing the part of one of the two speakers. Honestly, it's really cool. But here's the thing, that's just the main portion of the Rocket program. The other half of the lessons in each module or unit, or whatever you want to call it, are called language and culture lessons. In these lessons, Rocket dives deeper into specific grammar principles, which they break down with short explanations, examples, and graphics. The point of these shorter lessons is to explain the structural differences between English and the language you're learning. So in my opinion, Rocket Languages really knocks teaching grammar and structure out of the park. Plus, Rocket also tosses in some important cultural tidbits along the way in the lessons, which is kind of cool, and that's more or less Rocket. Audio lessons backstopped by reinforcement drills and detailed grammar and cultural lessons. Now let's move on to an overview of Babbel. With Babbel, one of the main differences that sets it apart from Rocket Languages is the length of the lessons. Babbel's lessons are shorter because the format is much different. While lessons with Rocket Languages are about an hour long from start to finish, Babbel keeps the lessons shorter at about 10 to 15 minutes. Each lesson consists of a series of several quick-hit, hands-on exercises. There are listen and repeat exercises, digital flashcards, fill in the blanks, matching pairs, matching phrases to images, completing mock conversations, short instructional tips on grammar, and a few more. Make no mistake, there's a lot packed into those 15 minutes. And Babbel is great for those types of students who retain information best when exposed in short, intense bursts. With Babbel, assuming you have no working knowledge of the language that you're learning, you'll start at the newcomer level, with the goal of completing one lesson per day. Nothing tragic will happen if you don't complete one lesson per day, but you should aim for at least a few lessons per week, or else you risk not retaining what you actually learned. Honestly, with Babbel's short lesson structure, it's safe to say that most people wouldn't have any trouble hitting the daily lesson target. Babbel offers a very diverse approach to learning in terms of format that moves fast. This is largely the case because each lesson is made up of several quick-hit interactive drills and exercises. Babbel basically presents the same content for a lesson in a variety of different ways and really forces you to engage with the material. Babbel understands that most people learn through repetition, so each day's lesson begins with a review session covering vocabulary from previous lessons. All right, so that's how the two companies generally compare. The big takeaway here is that the Rocket lessons take around an hour to complete from start to finish and place a very strong emphasis on developing your listening and speaking skills with their audio lessons, while the Babbel lessons are much shorter and much more diverse in their delivery with active, hands-on exercises. While I'm talking about it, if you want to see some examples of the lessons and drills from both companies, be sure to check out that full written comparison I mentioned earlier. I'll have it linked down below in the description for you. You'll find some helpful screenshots and examples of both programs over there to provide a better feel for what to expect from both Rocket Languages and Babbel. Moving right along and comparing Rocket Languages and Babbel, I want to take a quick pause and talk about pricing. Babbel uses a straightforward classic subscription model, which honestly is very affordable. Each subscription plan offers access to all 14 languages, and you choose the plan based on how long you want to enjoy unlimited access to Babbel. Currently, plans range from about $9 to $14 a month. The lifetime membership to Babbel is listed for a one-time payment of about $600. However, don't let the sticker shock get to you. Babbel almost always offers a hefty discount on its lifetime plan. In contrast, the pricing structure with Rocket Languages is quite different. They don't offer the same type of subscription model that Babbel does. Instead, all plans include lifetime access to only one language and are structured on how deep into learning a language you actually want to go. Just the level 1 plan with Rocket Languages costs about $150. Levels 1 and 2 combined cost in the ballpark of about $300, and all 3 levels are priced at about $450. Obviously, Babbel is the cheaper of the 2 language apps. When you compare Babbel's best price of $9 per month to Rocket Languages' lowest price of $150, it's clear to see which one is more affordable, especially if you're on a budget and can't afford a lump sum payment. With that, however, I just want to say that if you are on a budget or as someone who loves a great deal, don't let the pricing of these programs ever discourage you. As I mentioned earlier, Babbel typically offers a good discount on its lifetime package, and Rocket Languages is almost always running some special deal or promotion. The prices listed are just the MSRPs, so be sure to come back and check out the box below for the most recent coupon codes and deals on these 2 programs. I always do my best to keep the information updated, and I don't want you to miss out on a great deal. All right, now that we've talked about pricing and I've laid out how each program works, let's get into the major pros and cons of Rocket Languages and Babbel and how they compare. Let's start with Rocket Languages. So the first clear highlight for Rocket is the audio lessons. And like I said earlier, these audio lessons are really the backbone of the program and what makes Rocket different from most other language apps. In my opinion, these audio lessons are really engaging and do a great job of getting you to actually think under pressure and verbalize what you're learning, which is great, especially if you'll be traveling and communicating with native speakers of the language. I just think that the focus on listening and speaking exercises is what sets Rocket Languages apart. We've tried many different language apps and have found that most fall short in this area, including Babbel. With the Rocket program, nearly 3/4 of the content is focused on listening and speaking exercises, which is one of the most powerful ways to internalize and learn a new language. In my opinion, one of the coolest parts of the Rocket audio lessons is that when you're done, you can then play the underlying conversation that the lesson is built around in real time, and play the part of one of the 2 actors. This approach is really effective, in my opinion. Then my next win for Rocket is their speech recognition software. Between Rocket and Babbel, I much prefer Rocket's speech tech. Babbel's software is good, but it's just fairly simple here. It will tell you when you really butcher a phrase and have you repeat it, but for the most part, it's not super sensitive. It mostly just says things like, "You made that sound easy," or "You're a pronunciation pro." It's just not the most helpful feedback in the world. In contrast, Rocket software is more sensitive, more accurate, and gives better feedback. This is largely because Rocket uses Google's Web Speech API for their underlying software, which is really strong. So if pronunciation feedback is important to you, definitely gotta go with Rocket. Then my last pro for Rocket here is the comprehensiveness of the coursework. When you're in each program doing lessons day in and day out, you can just tell the Rocket curriculum and setup is more robust. You've got detailed audio lessons, a nice variety of post-audio drills like flashcards and quizzes, language and cultural lessons, and bonus tools like language survival kits and leaderboards. Plus, they sprinkle in some cool things about etiquette and manners as well, which is pretty cool too. Look, I don't mean to knock down Babbel here. I really do like their lessons, and they have some really strong extras themselves, like podcasts and games, but it's just clear that the Rocket program is deeper and more immersive. It feels more like a full academic program, where Babbel is more like a fun learning tool. Rocket is just an incredibly comprehensive program, and I had to call that out. Okay, so that's what I like about Rocket's program over Babbel. Let's turn the tables and talk about my wins for Babbel. But before I get to that, I should mention that every single month here at Test Prep Insight, we give away a free language learning course to one lucky winner. It's super simple to enter. Everyone is eligible. I'll put all the details down below in the description. It'll take you less than 10 seconds to enter, and hey, you never know, you could win a lifetime subscription to Rocket Languages or Babbel. All right, the feature I like the most about Babbel's program over Rocket is the sheer variety of drills and exercises. Rocket does use a nice little mix of exercises after each audio lesson, but it's always the same 4 or 5. In contrast, the Babbel lessons have a ton of variety in them, which keeps things more balanced and engaging. For me, the diversity in the Babbel drills is great for keeping you engaged during lessons. Then second, and this sort of piggybacks off my point about lesson engagement, I like that Babbel's lessons are shorter. Again, to complete a full Rocket lesson, that is audio exercise plus the reinforcement drills, you're looking at around a full hour. Of course, you can always pause partway through and come back later if you want, but I just prefer the short length of Babbel's lessons. They're great for squeezing a lesson in on your lunch break or after dinner. They just don't feel as taxing and are more bite-sized. And finally, my last highlight of the Babbel program is their daily review sessions. Every day when you log into the Babbel app, you're prompted to do a short review. Basically, Babbel takes vocab from old lessons you've completed previously and pulls them back in for a spaced review session. This is essentially bite-sized reinforcement, but it's super effective at helping you retain the new language. During the program, you'll see every word or phrase you learn at least a half dozen more times over the course of several months. I also like that you can choose how you want to review, whether flashcards, listening, speaking, or writing. Personally, listening is my favorite because you get some of the auditory benefits, but we all learn differently, and I appreciate that Babbel gives you options. For now, that about does it for this detailed comparison, and I know you're ready to hear my final thoughts. Should you choose Rocket or Babbel to learn a new language? Honestly, it's just hard to pick, just because in some ways, Rocket and Babbel are like comparing apples and oranges. They're so different and both have features that I really like. I really like Rocket for their interactive audio lessons, supplemental drills, detailed grammar instruction in their language and culture lessons, and their speech recognition software. But I also like Babbel for their short, engaging lessons, spaced vocab reviews, and smart use of layered grammar. They're both well-designed and effective. I think it ultimately comes down to your personal preference and your individual learning style, which varies student to student. If you have a short attention span, then Babbel is the clear winner due to the quick, digestible lessons. But on the other hand, if you're an auditory learner and have the patience for longer lessons, Rocket is exceptional at building fluency. Overall, if I must pick a favorite, I would give the slight edge to Rocket. Their programs are just so robust and efficient. However, at the end of the day, my advice is to give both a try if you have the time. I've combined these programs with success, and they complement each other without too much overlap. Combining them is also a great way to fill in the gaps and also base your daily lessons on what's going on in your life, your schedule, and the headspace you're in when it's time to actually sit down and study. Anyways, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you found this video helpful. Please make sure to subscribe, give us a like and comment, and don't forget to check out our website and the rest of our YouTube channel for more learning language reviews and comparisons. Happy learning!